My job is all about purpose.
Just the ability to make a difference, to help someone be able to go home at the end of the day.
My great-grandfather started the volunteer fire department in Springfield, Nebraska. My grandmother was a nurse. My uncle was a fire chief in Atlanta, Georgia. So somewhere down the line, it was my purpose to be doing this.
Yeah, we're a family here.
The data we get from Rapid SOS is life-saving.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact of the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
And one of the attendees in there broke down while she was sharing a story. And what she said was, it's okay to cry. And she was telling everybody in there, all these dispatchers in there, that it's okay to cry and remember the things that hurt. And it's okay to reach out and all. And throughout the last few episodes, specifically for Dr. Robbie, you see him crying a bit more. And in the season finale, during the C-section, he keeps looking back at the baby. And, he's struggling himself with a lot of different things, saying, that he possibly doesn't want to be here anymore. And people are concerned for him. And, once the baby lives, there's also a Jane Doe baby that's been there throughout the whole season. And Dana is looking for someone to kind of take her, I guess, in a way. And Dr. Robbie ends up there holding the Jane Doe baby and is just like kind of looking down at her and crying and stuff. And I feel like where he felt like his life might have been ending or all this chaos was going on within him, that he found new life in a way.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be episode 652. Wow. Yeah, it's so crazy to say that, but 652 of... I'm sorry. It blows me away that I'm at 652 of this podcast. Because as I've said before, when I first started this, I had no idea it would go where it is. And I have all of you to thank. So this episode is sponsored by Rapid SOS, Safer Together, the leading AI company in public safety. And a big shout out, as always, to subscribers and all of you who are watching, listening, supporting, and sharing. I am fresh back from the Navigator Conference. There'll be another episode where I talk a little bit more about that. But this episode... And I know last week I ended up telling you that my next guest was going to be Nadine, and it is, but it's going to be the following episode. Things have been so busy and so crazy. I need to get that one fully edited and out there. So it is April 29th today. So it'll be next week, Wednesday, that Nadine's episode comes out. So it is worth the wait. and you are going to love it. This episode is actually going to be like the previous episode, but this covers the season finale of The Pit, as well as Most Important Seconds with my friend Keely, and we had a special guest for this episode, and his name is Dr. Rao. And he is the inspiration for Noah Wiley's character on The Pit. And we had an amazing conversation with him, which is why I wanted to put this as an episode as well. You will all get something out of this. So without further ado, here is episode 652.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to, I don't know, dude. I don't know what's up with my voice this morning. I've got the Barry White thing going.
Sultry this morning. We're very sultry, but it's also like a dark
Welcome.
30 where you are.
Yeah, that's true. I'm over here on the West Coast in Vegas for a conference and everything. So it's 7:06 over here. But welcome again to, I can't even say it, Most Important Seconds After the Pit. This will be episode 15, and we are going to be breaking down the season finale, which was something else. So we're going to be going through this. We've got a special guest with us as well. As always, Keely, my homie, how are you doing today?
Good morning. Sounds like we're going to have a much different experience with that sultry voice today. It's not good.
Yeah.
This is a different Most Important Seconds, everybody.
Yeah, everyone is. Yeah, what most important seconds are we talking about? So yeah, people are going to be there with their coffee, like see what he's going to talk about today. But Keely, like we do through every episode, a quick summary as we're also going into the wrap up of this live broadcast that we've been doing since like January, and it has been a lot of fun to be able to go through every one of these episodes, have special guests with us, and not just break down the episode, but imagine what it's like from dispatch to EMS to the ER, and going through and comparing some of the situations that have been going on in the episodes and comparing them to dispatch or public safety in general, connecting the technology, bringing people together, and just how it all connects. So have at it.
So have at it. Give the rundown. So
Yes.
yeah, like it's hard to believe that this was January. Like it's been 4 months since our Pittsburgh at Allegheny General. It was really this all started. We were just asked to sponsor an event with HBO Max and bring together and like support some healthcare heroes in the hospital there. And that's where the show is actually based off of, is out in Pittsburgh. And it was this just great opportunity for us to get together, spend time with all of those people. And I know I talk about this all the time, but like watching people freshly scrubbed out of the OR come down and just say hi and get to know who we are. And we got to talk to them. And everybody was just incredibly kind, which as people in the public safety space and healthcare space, I tend to feel like we're all a little sarcastic flair, and maybe that's why I found them so nice. I don't know. Like it was a good time to just be with everybody, spend time, get to know some of the hospital administration that was there, and just see how much they really were supporting their team and giving us an opportunity to get that first eyes on episode 2 before it had gone streamed live, and being able to sit in a room in a whole auditorium with people like minds watching this event and laughing at the parts we probably shouldn't have been laughing at together. So that was it was fun. And also being able to bring in dispatchers and some field responders from Butler County. They joined us there, and just seeing that whole connective thread from your 911 call takers and operators and professionals all the way through and right up to OR, ICU, all of the people that just make that whole connective thread of patient care in one place was really just an incredible experience to be able to sponsor it, be a part of it, and then continue the conversation afterwards. It's been really great.
Yes, I have enjoyed it. A lot of people have reached out to us to say, we started watching what you guys were doing, and we started watching the show, and then we started comparing ourselves. We're like, these guys are really making some sense here and connecting all of this together, and all of us talking. And it's just been a great conversation and just an honor to do so. We're going to jump into this, and because as you were talking about your intro, you met this person there as well, and you told me about it. I was like, wait, what? For real? Like this happened? So you know what? you go ahead and do the intro, please, and I'll bring our guest up.
Of course. Like, as I said, we got to meet some really incredible people at the hospital, but I never expected that I was going to run into the doctor who Noah Wiley's character is based off of. So like the ED director himself, like the person who's in charge, the guy who is the all hands on deck. So Dr. Brent Rao is here with us today. I know we've had him earlier in the season, but we thought it was definitely important to bring him back for the season finale because he is the guy, he's the subject matter expert. He's the guy they go to make sure that what they are putting on scene or on screen, on scene. Look at me. There's my first responder. On screen is going to resonate with the audience. And I just thought we really had to have him back, and we want to spend some time talking to him about his experience too. Because I'm sure he went from being, the guy in the hospital to suddenly a very important guy. We actually had learned something about him last time, that he had grown out some facial hair because of an article they were doing. And I think it's just fascinating that one minute you're doing your thing, and the next minute you're, the person they're calling on to get some information from for the news media. So I think it's fun. So Dr. Brent Rao, everybody.
Here we are. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
I'm glad you were able to come back and join us again. I thought it was just so important to have you back, especially since it kind of all starts with your emergency department. So that's how this whole show gets here. So we had to have you back and had to have you just kind of tell us a little bit about it. But we'll do that as we have these conversations. But we'll talk a little bit about our season finale, which is so sad that it's over. But also, spoiler alert, we are going over it. If you've not seen it yet, we are going to talk about some things. So you might want to watch us on demand later.
Yeah, that'll work. One of the things that we wanted to bring up right off the bat is the fact that, you've got all the systems back up now. And in comparison, and, we'll definitely get your experience as well. This has happened where you've been. I'm sure it has. But like for us in dispatch, when our systems go down, especially the system that I had, an older system, you go back to tablets and, you're chiseling everything in. And when it comes back up, you're manually putting everything in. And the time that it takes, and the fact that 911 doesn't stop, emergencies don't stop. So you have to keep going back and forth. And then you've got officers, who are calling in, like, what's my number? What's my number? What's my number? And like, you know what? When we get done with it, we will give you the number. But, we didn't have a lot of other technology or anything other than us just typing it all in manually. And you see these main characters in this last episode for the season that are almost falling asleep. Actually, some of them do fall asleep a little bit, because I think Dr. Ravi gets a glove and chucks it at one of them to wake up. And she's like, I was just resting my eyes. But they're using dictation and the AI and everything to be able to do it. So in comparison, just talking about, technology, I guess, in general, Dr. Rao, from the time that you started to the way it is now, how has the technology changed and how you work through those situations?
Yeah, I mean, the technology's changed quite a bit as far as not just the way we take care of patients and maybe the equipment that we have and everything, but just the way that we are alerted and the way that of patients coming, the way that we track them through the system from the pre-arrival all the way through the emergency department care, and then either to discharge and then up into either the operating room or wherever they end up going in the hospital once they're admitted. So that's all been way more kind of streamlined but also, as we've mentioned before, it's caused us to rely a little bit heavier on that technology. And so when it does go down, you've got a lot of people that are younger than I that, don't remember the paper days and don't remember other ways to take care of things. And as you kind of mentioned, sometimes the most challenging part is you when the system goes down and it's all, chaotic for a little bit, you almost, after a few hours, almost just kind of get used to the chaos and the writing and all this. And then all of a sudden the system comes back up and you convert back. And that's almost just as painful as when it went down, because now you're putting it all back in there. And it's like this switch back. And usually, it's later in the shift, no matter when it started, that the system comes back up. So you're more tired. I think about, for example, yesterday, we're relying heavily, we have the NFL draft going on down the street from our hospital right now. And we're relying heavily on communication through technology with our medical forts that we have around the stadium where the draft is taking place, and then us, which is, less than half mile away up the street. And then also that's how we're tracking patients going through, who's being treated, at least from there, who's coming in and stuff like that. So I can't imagine because I've seen it before, but I thought about that yesterday. If this technology went down in the middle of this draft, what would be our backup? And we certainly have backups in place, but it's almost harder to start with the technology, have it go down, and then have it come back than just doing it, the old school way, so to speak, from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. Have you had any of those moments like throughout the season when someone's trying to take a picture of something before it goes down, or someone brings out the whiteboard? They're like, "All right, does anyone remember how to do this?" Or
yes, oh yeah, no, we when they're planned, we actually have the whiteboard, sitting in the back in a room. Part of the ED's under construction, but we know where this particular board is. We've slide it out and we start, there's a bunch of dry erase markers, and we start scribbling as fast as we can before it goes down. When it's unplanned, sometimes we don't, but sometimes when it is unplanned, there's almost a little countdown on the screen that you're about to lose it, and everybody grabs their phones and takes their picture as fast as they can. And we'll try to then put that on a board. So what they did in the pit when that actually went down is very familiar. And we've had that happen both planned and unplanned times, like in the show, just from everything from, again, possible cyber attacks up to just maintenance issues or unplanned maintenance that can happen at any point.
Keely, what are your thoughts on the technology and everything, but also some of the parts that you see in the episode where they're going through the dictation and they're just kind of looking around at people and nodding out a little bit? I was like, I feel that. I remember some of those long nights in dispatch and you're trying to put everything in, or even when I first started out in the single dispatch PD, where one person was just on and we had to listen to some of the tapes from the interviews, and we would have to type out the transcript, and I'm just fighting for my life to stay awake. So what are your thoughts on some of all this?
First, Christopher's in the audience with us, and he wrote, "We don't teach cards to new dispatchers for some reason, so the stress goes wild." And there's that moment too, because now you've got to train these people when it all goes down. Even if you are prepared, sometimes we have, to Dr. Rao's point, like maintenance, they've got to, pull the system down so they can reboot something or add some updates. So even in those planned stretches where they're like, should be down for 20 minutes, and 3 days later, it finally comes back up. But in those moments, you're actually training on top of that, because now you're like, oh, now I've got to teach these people how to do it. And it's a great point. Why is it that we aren't also training what to do when we have to go back to analog, right? When we have that moment. So in the midst of now the system's gone down, you're also showing these people, and that you see that on the pit where it goes down, and now you've got the old timers that are like, here's your clipboards, here's your racks, here's this, but they're still processing traumas that are walking in the room. They're still probably, dealing with the people who are on the onslaught, and they have ice that's now come in. They've got this whole introduction. Now there's this whole layer of things are about to get real, and now patients are disappearing off of boards, and they can't keep track of that because it's not like they scanned themselves out of the hospital and it came off a board, So there's all of these other layers of things, and like you said, Ricardo, your cops are calling in between, can I get my number? I got to stop this car, right? And you're like, not now. I don't even have a CAD system. Don't do that.
Everything.
So the regular everyday life doesn't stop on top of that, and then to Dr. Rao's point, when the system comes back up, it's now you've gotten into this cadence. You've gotten used to the system being down. You've now figured it out. And now everything comes back up and you're like, oh, now I've got to get back into the groove of getting it all there and entered, because all of those patient records, all of that data that you've now ingested during that time has to go somewhere so that there is a record of it. And that to me was more of a pain in the ass than anything else I would deal with. And it's that the time and you realize, right? And I think I mentioned this to you when I sent you my notes. You realize how long analog really did take. And when you were doing it, right? When we all started in the Stone Age, right? You didn't realize, because that was your cadence. You were used to the processes, you just did them. And I remember my field time as a paramedic, working in the field, and everything was handwritten, right? And now I'm trying to write an entire chart on a patient. while also getting that patient delivered to the ED. We're in a trauma room. We're all covered in blood at this point. Things have gone sideways. And now I have to get this report over to the staff there and the patient chart of what we did in the field so that they can get it attached to that patient's record, right? So like afterwards, I would throw the pizza in my mouth, sit down at the nurse's station and finish charting for my patient, right? But that means that my rig was out of service until that was all transferred over. And my bus now has to be cleaned on top of it, right? Like, because Lord knows it looks like a bomb went off in the back of the rig. So you have to, get the patient transferred over. You usually stay to help out, get the patient over, let the, and still giving report, but like you didn't get a chance to write anything down while you were en route. So now you're doing all of that post patient. So none of that happened in real time. And now you're sitting there, your rig's out of service. And like that gap of time that you have now spent doing all of those things, it's a slow process. So like when you think about what technology has done to streamline and reduce timeframes, it's staggering because like now you're seeing it, right, where they're all trying to get this stuff back in and it takes a considerable amount of time. And yet they're still allowed to do things like transcribe. They're still using, like, as it comes back online, they're still using that tech, but now all of that stuff that had been previously written now has to be dictated and entered. So it's like when you think about analog systems and the time that we lost doing those things, and now the advancement of technology and what is the reduction of time because of that, you become so reliant on it, you don't remember until you're back in the thick of it. And that's all I kept thinking was, oh my God, the loss of time that these poor people have, Yeah, and now they're raising you for a new call. Yes, exactly. Like that's exactly it. Like you got all of these new calls coming in on top of the analog systems that you're putting together. And it's just staggering to me to think about. We worked in a time when this took a minute to get things done. And now we've got these systems in place that is reducing that significantly. We had Mir on from Avive a couple weeks ago talking about being able to even send the heart rhythms into the ED before the patient's even on scene and what that does, right? Like now we're narrowing the teams, the STEMI teams that are coming, the people that are coming in. And it's just this huge reduction of time. But like beforehand, it was like, hey, this is, so-and-so, we're coming in with a 45-year-old female playing chest pain, and hoping that somebody on the other side of the hear radio is listening to me because they've already got 15 other things going on. So it's like, it's just staggering to me to think of all of that time, not wasted, but used in one single patient and one single 911 call from, dispatch to getting them to the appropriate facility inside the hospital, right? Like it's staggering.
Yeah, it's been something from then to now. And I do have to ask though, Dr. Rao, do you have some of those very seasoned folks, I'll put it that way, very seasoned folks that you can call upon if a system goes down or you're at I don't know, basically level 0 and you need help? Like there's those folks that come in and they know everything from old school to basically now, and they can help direct a lot of what's going on.
Yeah, we definitely have that. I think I would divide us into kind of 3 phases of our careers at this point. You've got the group that's what they trained on, that old way, that they're still kind of getting used to technology, but they're definitely good with it. Then you got a big chunk that's in their 40s and early 50s. Myself is in that category, right? Just barely, but I'm in there. And that's people that trained on paper, but very quickly started adapting into technology kind of as it swayed into especially like the late 2000, let's say 2008 to 2013, where we had a kind of a surgence of technology in the emergency department. And then you've got the young, which are still in training or fresh out of training or relatively close to training, that only know the tech. And they're very good with that. Those are the people that, hey, I want to create this in my EMR to track these patients, or I want to generate this report. How do I do that? And they just type some stuff in and it's done. I'm not that level. I'm also not the level where I remember doing everything on charts. I'm kind of in that middle zone. So if something like this would happen, we do have docs we can call, and we actually do have she's not quite as, I I don't know, I don't want to use the word opinionated and has quite the attitude that the one on the
Robust.
pit does. Yes, robust. Yeah, I mean, but I look at her as similar to that character, where she has seen it all, she knows it all. It's kind of like, all right, just get out of my way, let me take care of this, I got it. And we appreciate that when having those people. You always appreciate them, but when everything goes back to the old way and systems go down, those are the people you need to kind of just please run the show, because you know how to do this. This is your norm. This is what you remember. Please help me, not just me, but please help teach these young people that have never seen this department run without some sort of either AI technology or some other system that we use to track our patients or to enter patients or to treat our patients.
I think one of the things I liked the most as well, when the whole system went down and everything, and I honestly, I can't remember what the machine actually was. I think it was, they were using it to view like different x-rays, but they were moving this machine around.
Mhm.
They brought it down there, and the person who brought it down had some other knowledge and experience that he was bringing around there, and people were like, how do you know that? He's like, well, I trained and did this and that. And I think those are always a good thing to have people around, and sometimes you don't even know until something like this happens, where you find out, oh, they know way more, and I can
Mhm.
learn from that as well. Now, a thought, as we're talking about this, if you could build like in your ideal system on information coming from dispatch or from EMS, or like Keely was saying, from like a Vive, to send all of that vital information, like what would that system, just, I guess, just an overview, high level, what would that look like for you, thinking of something that would be ideal for all of you to have, for that information to save or to help save lives as much as possible?
Probably something that goes directly to the people that are working that day, because these some of these things with good intent end up just being broadcasted, and a bunch of people that aren't even at work maybe get something on their personal phones and had to opt in, opt out, and then you forget to opt in when you're in the day, when you sign in for the day. So it's almost like a system that would recognize, like, okay, Rao's on shift. That means that he's now active on this system. So stuff's going to start getting transmitted to his phone. Stuff that's going directly to, like, I use our phones because we all have phones on us. But some of us, like myself, have a work phone and a personal phone. I don't care which one it would go to, but that information coming to me and going into my pocket without being broadcasted overhead. The ED is so distracting. There's just so much going on, especially for the attending doctors, the Noah Wileys out there, and obviously myself, where I'm not only in charge of all of these patients, but I'm also in charge of the physicians, both the residents and the attendings that are taking care of these patients, their well-being, how they're practicing medicine. I've got so many distractions all the time that I don't need overhead pages every 2 seconds of sepsis alert here, STEMI's coming in here, 3 GSW victims coming in, in 20 minutes. Maybe some of that stuff is good to have overhead, but some of it is it just adds to the stuff, and you end up missing something because there's just so much stimulation, so much going on, and so many things that you can possibly hear at one time. To have something that directly comes to me, information that comes to me when I'm working and not when I'm not working, clinically, would be ideal. And that would include, not just demographics of the patient, but what they're coming in for, rhythm strips, as Keely mentioned, especially if it's a cardiac nature, maybe a quick EKG snapshot, because we still sometimes are in the every paramedic team, for the most part, attempts very hard to transmit us EKGs. It works about 60% of the time, right? It depends on where their service is, right? Where they grab that patient. It's like, oh, I sent you an EKG. Did you get it? I'm sorry, I didn't. It's probably because you came from this town that I know has probably, the closest tower for your reception was probably 40 miles away, and we didn't get it, and by the time they start transmitting it and it works from the, en route, we're already 4 minutes away. So at that point, it's just kind of just get here. We'll see when you get here. So I think all that information being streamlined to the people that are working when they're working, not when they're not working. And again, coming to our pockets and maybe not necessarily overhead, just adding to the stimulation of an already really loud place, especially, when I think of like last night, even though we did pretty well with the NFL draft as far as just the commotion and all the added stuff because of that. In addition to the fact that every single patient had the draft blaring in their rooms, and you could just hear the noise of the draft, and especially when the Steelers were picking. So, to have that more just kind of being streamlined to our pockets would make more sense.
That's awesome. Keely, what are your thoughts in listening to Dr. Rao talk about this and how, with what you do as well in your experience, what are your thoughts?
He brings up a good point about getting the information to people when they're on duty, right? Like, so we had a particular situation in my center a few years ago when I was the director, and all of a sudden there's the chief of police is banging on my center door, right? Like we don't give them access, right? Because we don't want them coming in there and yelling at our dispatchers or just thinking they can come in unless they're bringing snacks. Yes, snacks are allowed. But she was banging on our door and was like, why didn't you dispatch that? And we're all kind of like looking at each other, dispatch what? Like, what are you talking about? So as it turned out, they had implemented technology at the school and they had pushed a button for an app, and that app didn't go anywhere. It went to the SROs who were in, but that certain SROs, only certain ones had it downloaded on their phone. So when the activation went out, they got it, but we didn't dispatch it. And they're yelling at us like we did something wrong, but we didn't even know that they had put this technology in. And I feel like there's, Chris puts in their integrated technology, so many advances that cannot talk to each other, right? And you can't monitor it easily at all because they're in separate, like there's all this data out there, but like, how does it get there and who does it go to, right? And I remember that being like, well, where does it go? Who has it? And they're like, oh, well, it's an app on a phone. Okay, but I'm not having my dispatchers put an app on their phones so that when they're, a night shifter at 10 a.m. something happens and now their phones are going off and now they've been disrupted. Like that's not healthy for anybody. So like that's an extremely interesting point. Is it's like you said, to check in, check out. Like I'm on call right now, so like you can go ahead and send that to me. I'm interested in what's happening, and let the people determine when they want the information pushed and when they don't. Right? Because I agree. Some things just become background noise to us. Like right now, it's now that I've been out of it for over a year. I was on a call interviewing an ECC the other day, and their 911 phone rang, and it was the same tone that we had. And I was like, "Oh,
so did that trigger you?"
It totally triggered me. I was like, "Oh, that's it." But like when you're doing it all the time, you're desensitized by it, and like you hear all those announcements, you hear those things going off, and it's like radio traffic for us. How many times do you hear like a squelch of a radio off and it doesn't even faze you because you're just so used to it? But like if an officer changes their tone of voice, suddenly your ears perk up because you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like something normal, right? So like imagine if you could take that and streamline that to something that's like viable into a person's pocket, like their cell phone's going off and they know that alert means something is inbound to them, specifically to them, like they need to make this. So I think that's a really fascinating point because I feel like everything just becomes noise. And when you have too much noise, too many systems, too many screens, too many things going on, things fall through the crack because like there's this point where technology is really super great until it isn't. Right. And it's like until those things fall through the crack, because if I'm not looking, if it doesn't prioritize on my screen in CAD, right, I might miss it because it's sitting somewhere in the background. And that particular app was one of those where like it would make an alert or a noise, but it could get easily missed. So I actually had to work with the team for this particular app to get it to prioritize on our screen. Because if I just hear something go off in the background, do you know how many somethings I hear all day long and noise that I hear and alerts from CGIS that's going off and my NCIC screen and stuff that doesn't protect, like, literally, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, it's more bells and whistles somewhere. And like, especially like you think of like an ED and it's like a patient's lead has fallen off and that alerts the room, like all of those sensors and noise and all of the things. So like, I can imagine hearing something coming over and being like, code what? What did they just say? Like, was that a code blue? What just happened? Who's doing what in what part of the hospital? And was that for the ED or was that for ICU? Where was that? So I can see that like if it's specifically notifying the people that need to be notified, I feel like that would definitely change the game. And to Dr. Rao's point also is like, it's true, right? Technology is great until it isn't. If they can't get some of those, they try to transmit all the time. And I was definitely one of those people that was like, okay, it's not transmitting. Okay, it's not going through. button, like, let's keep trying it. But it's like, what could we do to better streamline it? I know a Vive system is pretty good, but that's only where a Vive is, right? And the thing is, we have to get people to adopt the technology. And, conversation I just recently had was, you also have, and when we're talking specifically about AI, right? Because that's the hot topic right now in technology for healthcare, for 911, for public safety. But you also have full county systems, and probably, and maybe Dr. Rao can speak to this, but we've got some full systems that are denying the usage of AI. So now you're also dealing with this data is available, but it's not getting anywhere because people aren't implementing it, because they're up against it, trying to explain it to their citizens, explain it to the people who are using it. And also you've got, full sheriff's departments, full county systems that are like, we're not putting AI in it at all because we don't trust it. And I can feel that for them, right? Like, they don't understand it enough. They don't understand what it's doing. And I imagine that Dr. Rao has patients that are like, get that recording device out of my room. Like, I don't trust this. I don't know. Big Brother is listening, right? So that's a problem, but it's helping them do their jobs faster. But it can also be a really scary thing, especially as we've talked about the 3 different generations. I feel like your little guys are like, whatever, my face is on a screen all day long, and I understand the technology and understand it's not so scary. But then you've got my dad, who is like, I'm not putting that in. And it's like, okay, but you have to. It's the only way you're going to get your patient chart. So it's like, having those conversations is that we're in a really weird time right now. Like, and also respecting that there are some that are just not comfortable with it, but how do we get that information to where it needs to be in a timely fashion? So it's definitely, I've got big thoughts about all of it, for sure. Big feelings. I've got big feelings about it.
So I've got a couple things that I want to mention here as we go into the wrap up of this. And again, Dr. Rao, thank you so much for being on here with us. Yesterday, I taught my class. It's a peer support session called Imagine Listening. And one of the attendees in there broke down while she was sharing a story. And what she said was, it's okay to cry. And she was telling everybody in there, all these dispatchers in there, that it's okay to cry and remember the things that hurt. And it's okay to reach out and all. And throughout the last few episodes, specifically for Dr. Ravi, you see him crying a bit more. And in the season finale, during the C-section, he keeps looking back at the baby, and he's struggling himself with a lot of different things, saying he possibly doesn't want to be here anymore, and people are concerned for him. And once the baby lives, there's also a Jane Doe baby that's been there throughout the whole season, and Dana is looking for someone to kind of take her, I guess, in a way. And Dr. Ravi ends up there holding the Jane Doe baby, and is just like kind of looking down at her and crying and stuff. And I feel like where he felt like his life might have been ending, or all this chaos was going on within him, that he found new life in a way. But also in the same sense, with the work that he was doing, it was almost like a reminder, like, this is why I do what I do. And I feel like we go through that as well in public safety at times, where you get lost and you're trying to find your way back, and you don't know, you question if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you're in the spot that you're supposed to be. And then you get a moment like that where you realize the impact of what you do. And it's like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just wanted to bring that up because it was a powerful moment to see him with, connecting with the baby that he'd been working on, and the mother as well, and then connecting with Jane Doe baby that's been there. And just to see that connection, that was pretty powerful. So I wanted to mention that, because I'm sure the both of you have had moments where things have been really hard, and you kind of question certain things, but then you have those moments where, this is why I do what I do, and this is why I'm here. Like, this is really my calling. Like, what are your thoughts? Either one of you.
Keely, do you want to go? Do you want me to talk?
Hey, listen, I've got plenty of stories to tell about my trauma.
For me, I've been doing this for, emergency medicine now for almost 15 years now. So a lot of different things. And, I think back on my career and one of the completely self-serving, this is a completely just for me, all the stuff with the pit, right, has then led to me doing things like this or media. I've done a lot with obviously just local news, but obviously national stuff, whether it be PBS. I just did something with Esquire magazine, HBO, things like that. So it's given me a lot of outlets, and it's almost like every time I do one of these big formal interviews, it's almost cathartic for me to just get it out there. So I appreciate the pit just entirely as selfish. This is just for me, because it's allowed me a chance to almost vent out some of the things that, that before maybe only my family, my wife, maybe my parents had heard. We go through kind of the routine and things become commonplace that shouldn't become commonplace to anybody, right? The trauma, you shouldn't get used to things that we get used to. Now, there are some things like the death of a child I'm never going to get used to. I can tell you the first names of every kid I've pronounced over the last 15 years, but I can't for the adults because there's been so many. And the things that you get used to, the trauma, the horrors that you see, whether it be, the things that happened during the pandemic, mass casualties, the traumas, I took care of the shooter from the synagogue shooting, right? And just that the emotion around what that was that day. You bottle it all up and it does start to feel like, what is the point of all of this? It's just, and me as the person in charge of the emergency department, sometimes I kind of empathize a little bit with what he was saying. It's like, can I even break away from this anymore? Will the ED be okay if I'm gone? And then, it was fine before I existed. It'll be fine when I'm gone. It'll get by. Patients will be seen. And so you kind of put all that in, and sometimes that even adds to it of, what is the point of all of this? And sometimes it's a particular case, a save, a grateful family, maybe somebody you didn't save, but still a grateful family. Sometimes it's an outlet, like doing something different, something like maybe it's media related, maybe it's draft preparation for the NFL draft, right? There's something that maybe kind of brings it all back and says, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because without those moments, sometimes the weight just kind of does this, and things, you start to feel a bit of a shell of a person, and you can tell when that happens. And I think I've done a better job over the last couple of years, at least taking care of myself better than I had before for those reasons, because you start to realize that you are not as good of a doctor when you're not taking care of yourself. Your patients suffer for it. And so if you're not well, they're not going to be well. So I think all of that together has kind of been a wake-up call. And I like that this season of the pit did show, there's been kind of some controversy there was really a lot of focus on Robbie and his mental health. But, me, again, selfishly, I was appreciative of it because I could reflect on a lot of what was going on. And when even just when Noah was filming with us in the second season, when he was filming it, and we were talking about this stuff, it was very cathartic for me to just kind of get it out there. And still is to this. I mean, this conversation is how I survive nowadays, right? And it gives me a next, okay, that'll give me another month and another month and another month. And it's good because, again, I'm responsible not just for myself, but for a lot of patients. I'm responsible for a lot of doctors. I'm responsible for training a lot of doctors and nurses as well. So again, a kind of a long-winded way of saying that all of this very much resonated with me. What you said resonated with me as well. So I think it can be a lot. The world can be very heavy, especially in healthcare and especially in emergency medicine and pre-hospital and everything around emergent care, just the things that we see. So it's been very good to have an avenue to not only talk about it, but also to show the world that maybe what the people that are in the ER, that are in the ambulances, that are, in the 911 call centers, what they're dealing with on a daily basis.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Keely.
How do you follow that up? I mean,
sorry, if you give me a platform, I can rant. I've got, I'm post draft night, but I've got 2 cups of. I finished my second cup of coffee during this, so I will.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, but let me tell you, you are in good company here because you get me and Ricardo up on a soapbox to talk about this stuff, and we will be there for hours and days. And just Dr. Rao does not know this story, so I'll share it. Many of you out there don't know this story, but there was a point in my career, I had been, I had actually changed jobs, gone through a divorce, and bought a house all within like 6 months of each other. So I was not in the best headspace. And I was just reading something. Actually, Roxy Van Gundy put it out today. If anybody knows Roxy and you go to her social media, Roxy put out today something about the statistics about how many critical incidents that fire and police see in their time. And it's a staggering number. But then you think about your dispatchers are the people that handle and dispatch all of those calls. So do the math, right? Like we're seeing more of it. And then conversely, now you're adding in the component of, a medical doctor who is sitting in an ED that's getting all of those traumas on the backside, right? So it's like, do the math. I feel like dispatch and the hospital are seeing all of those patients or talking to all of those patients. And then there's the space between that first, the field response, right? Like, so I feel like there was this part of my career where I thought I was losing my mind. Like I literally thought I was not okay. And I never talked about it, right? Like we're taught to put our big girl panties on and go about our day and just man up for the next call. And I was working nights. I had actually gone back to shift work. I had a small infant child at home. I was now a single parent. I was slowly a shell of myself. And Ricardo actually had put out his first video on the I Am 911 movement. And it was the first time I actually watched it while I was working in the middle of the damn night. And I got up from the desk, walked into the bathroom, sat down on the floor, and it was the first time in my career that I had allowed myself to feel anything because I realized I was not alone. And that was the key. And so much to Dr. Rao's point, having these conversations and putting it out in space and talking about it bought time. Like it bought me time to know that there were other people and that I could have that conversation and that I could be like, hey, this is difficult. This is hard. And I have some really horrible calls that wake me up at night where I still hear patients screaming. Does anybody else feel this? And then like the hand raisers. Oh yeah, me too. Right. And so I think, being able, and I don't find it selfish at all, Dr. Rao, that this has given you a platform and an avenue to now be able to have conversations, to be open about what it's like to work in an ED. And it is now becoming commonplace because people are watching it and people are empathizing with it. And I feel like the more that we do that, the more that we put things in public and we let them understand that like, this isn't as easy or as, screen worthy as, there are difficult parts to it. And that the fact that they put that up there and they're showing, you're watching, which doctor is it? I knew her name last night, but I don't know it now. Where she, she's having an issue with her mother and it's affecting the way that she is treating her patient, Dr. Mohan.
Yeah,
she's having difficulty treating her patient because she's got personal stuff going on. Remember, we're all humans too, right? So you've got these other, you're not just dealing with the work life, you're dealing with the external life as well that can sometimes impact that part of your life as well. Like you can't just hang it up at the door. And a lot of times they're like, hang it up at the door. Well, what happens, a very dear friend of mine and former colleague of mine lost a child. Well, now I'm worried about her every time she answers the phone. The first time she takes a call like that, what's that going to do? Right. So I worry about her constantly. She's constantly on my mind because it's like you have your real world stuff, the stuff that you do every day. Then you've got your patient stuff. You've got your callers stuff. You've got your people stuff that you're doing too. And it's like almost like twofold. Right. And also we're experiencing a part of life that many humans never do. They get maybe 4 traumatic incidents in their entire lives where we're dealing with all of those, right? Like we're seeing things that normal folks don't see, hear, touch, or smell, right? So like, but we're getting all of our senses in the middle of all of those traumatic, circumstances. And I think it's incredibly powerful that the Pit has brought that to light and isn't afraid to talk about hard conversations. They're talking about some very politically charged things in the middle of their ER too. Like the world is heavy right now and they're bringing it up and being like, look, we're dealing with that too. Also, like it's not a us versus them. It's a like, and we are experiencing this too. We are we are scared about things happening too. And I think it's so important. And I can imagine that now for you, Dr. Rao, that you have had this experience, this behind the scenes part where you're now part of this and you're having these avenues, this media that's now suddenly been thrust into your life. And I imagine it's been cathartic, but also like you were I don't want to say just an ER doctor because you're more than that, but like you were like somebody who was doing a job that's out there, and now you've got the media that's knocking on your door all the time. And I know we talked in the last one where they were having you grow out your facial hair so that they could do the split screen. So what's that been like for you to like also kind of be a focus of media? And I'm sure HBO Max has talked to you. You now, I mean, you basically call Noah. Like he's a bestie now. So like what's it like for you as well?
It's been it's been fun. It's been great to see not just for our ED at AGH at Allegheny General, but just get emergency medicine stories out there, and just to have like you mentioned, you have the public just to be aware of maybe like you said, when I was before media and stuff, I was doing the same stuff. It's just now it's more available in front of you on TV and through the media, and so it's always been there. I just think that it's just maybe there was a curtain pulled over it that maybe is starting to be shown more and in a more realistic light than maybe some other medical shows have done in the past, not focusing so much on the drama. And the drama of this show, the drama around the characters is a little bit more real drama, in the fact that it's drama that forms who they are and how they're practicing that particular day with life going on. It's not, who's meeting up with who after a bar and who's getting with who. It's a very different kind of a show, which is well appreciated. And I don't think we really have had that up until now. But no, it's been a lot of fun. I think things are going to probably calm down a little bit until November when we start filming again. Right now my focus is getting through the NFL draft. And once we're through that, I think maybe things will, calm down a little bit, but it's been a lot of fun. I've had, my alma maters reach out to me and do this or that for alumni things or speaker events and things like that. And it's just stuff that I certainly never thought about doing. It was not something that I chose emergency medicine for. You don't choose emergency medicine for the fame and glory, right? There's nothing glorious about necessarily what we're doing. It's about saving lives and treating patients, and that's why we're doing it. That's why we were drawn to it. So no, it's been fun. I'm not going to lie and say that it's oh my gosh, it's just been so. No, I mean I'm not. I'm sure if you get super famous, then it becomes a thing where it's actually more of a burden, but I'm not there. I actually think it's a lot of fun right now because I'm not at that point, and it's so different from what I normally do. So I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed that we've been able to get our stories out to the public. It's been great.
Excellent. Well, sir, thank you so very much for what you do in general, for what you do, and for coming on, being willing to come on and chat with us these last couple times, and just to learn a lot of things. I've been watching, throughout this season, and there are different procedures that are going on. I would think in my head, I wonder if Dr. Rao sees these and thinks, yeah, I taught them how to do that, or I showed them how to do certain things, and just have that kind of like, little pat on the back moment where you're like, I got to do these, these parts with them. And I just think that's really cool. So again, thank you for everything that you do and coming on with us. It's been an honor.
I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure to speak to you both and again, get stories out there more.
We are the storytellers.
Yes.
Yeah. We were going to continue to do it. If you ever need anything, or you ever have any questions for us at all, or anything, or maybe when filming and everything else starts, if we start doing this again, we will be in contact with you. But
Sounds
enjoy
good.
the rest of your day, and hopefully people continue to behave with the draft going on.
Yeah.
And
I hope
if
so.
they're able to get through it.
Yeah. Round 2 and 3 coming up. So.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to go into our outro. And again, thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Don't be a
Thank you
stranger.
both. Will not. Thank you.
All right. Keely, this has been amazing.
So much fun. I'm sad it's over. I am. It's been fun to make the connection with some of our guests, talking about how we put technology and people together to make everybody safer together. it's been, and to discuss what a safety network looks like, right? Not siloed systems, everything integrated, looking at one screen for your 911, getting that information to where it matters in the long run to save minutes. It's just been a really incredible experience. It was so great to meet everybody over at Allegheny General and spend the entire day with them, because we really did.
we did.
And the folks at Butler County who hosted us during that event as well for the media that day. Honestly, I couldn't say enough about the folks out there, and getting to spend all the time and then inviting them to spend the evening in the auditorium watching it with people who are like, you don't get 911 doesn't get to sit in the room with the director of the ED and have the same chuckle about the patient that just came in the door via ambulance. And like, and also we had field responders in there with us, right? Like, you don't get to do that. So being able to get to do that for one evening and see the like-mindedness and see that we are literally one chain of response. And it really was just such an honor and an experience. And it has been an honor to do this with you, my friend, to be able to connect the dots afterwards. And I'm sad it's over, but hopefully we'll be back next season.
Yeah, exactly. With the way a lot of that stuff ended, it's like, wait, what?
I know.
Like, there's got to be more. Like, I did like, as we mentioned a little bit ago, that towards the end, and you were telling me, make sure you watch throughout the credits and all, but to see those behind the scenes, but also to hear the actual voices of some of those actors and realize, oh, they have accents. Like,
yeah, they're not American at all.
Yeah, Whitaker would have I had no idea.
I sent you a video of Santos singing for Broadway, and I was like, I had no idea.
Yeah, that was funny as well to see them doing the karaoke there at the end, especially with the song, the specific song that they were singing. I feel like that one, it was a perfect way to end it with the day that they had.
For sure.
Man.
For sure. Like, sometimes we just need to scream into the void, and sometimes that includes a karaoke machine.
That's right. And Alanis Morissette.
Yes.
And
exactly.
You ought to know. Oh man, yeah. This has been awesome. It was a lot of fun to do this with you, and I look forward to the potential of us doing this again next season. Because they definitely have another season that's coming up. The show's been amazing. A lot of great reviews. If you have not watched the show, you can binge the entire season on HBO Max, and it has been awesome. Big shout out, as always, to Rapid SOS for bringing us in to do this. And that is Rapid SOS, Safer Together, the leading AI company in public safety. So things have been really good. And also, one last thing to mention here as we go, as we're wrapping this up. Next week, Wednesday, the 29th, is Innovation Day 2026. So make sure to register. Yeah. info.rapidsos.com/innovation-day-2026. And also, I'm doing a giveaway right now. If you have not seen this yet, I'm going to post it up again. But if you've not seen it, I've got my 10-year anniversary coins for the I Am 911 movement, and it says Decade of Voices on there. To get registered for that, all you have to do is register for Innovation Day 2026. And once you do, there's a confirmation that you get. Take a screenshot of that, email it to me, and you will be registered for the giveaway. So that's all you got to do. That's it. And it's going to be awesome. There's a lot of great years. I know.
10 years. Like 10 years ago, I was having a mental break and got to watch your video, and you got me to the end of my career. So hard to believe.
Here we are, friend.
We're like besties now. I never.
What up, dude?
I was fangirled first, but like now I know you. So now it's like I can just text you.
Right. Yeah. Now it's like, I'll see what this dummy's doing. Oh man. Well, it has been awesome. Everyone who's been watching and listening, thank you very, very much for tuning in every week since January when we started doing this. We were not sure how this was going to go in the beginning. And that very first episode, we just riffed. We just were winging it. and it was awesome from the get-go. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you all for joining us, and enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend, and we will see you all in the next one.
Bye, everybody.
And that was most important seconds. That was the after the pitch show and the season finales, what we were going over. And if I didn't say it before, and I'm saying it now here at the end, spoiler alert, I know it's too late, but either way, it was awesome to have Dr. Rao on and just get his perspective, and also to do that with Keely. It was a lot of fun. We had been doing that since January, so big shout out to everyone who was involved. And for us being out there during that sponsorship for HBO Max with the pit at Allegheny Hospital, where the pit takes place and where some of the filming happens as well, it was just an amazing experience altogether. And also a big shout out to Rapid SOS for bringing us in to go out there to do that and to continue covering it with this broadcast that we were doing. So shout out to everyone involved. Thank you all very, very much. And this episode has been sponsored by Rapid SOS, Safer Together, the leading AI company in public safety. And if you ever want to be a guest on this show, Within the Trenches podcast, whether you are new to dispatch, seasoned, or retired, I would love to share your story to literally the entire world. And it would be an honor. I've been doing this for over a decade. It's my passion. I would love to do it, and I would love to share your story. So reach out. The easiest way to do so is to simply go to links, and that is links with 2eyes.co/IAM911, and you'll find everything there. Email, social media, where to follow, where to hear the latest episodes of Within the Trenches podcast, as well as the Imagine Listening podcast. And there's a link right underneath that says schedule an episode. That's where you will click to schedule an episode with me. And there are 30 minutes and 60 minutes that are there. Please choose the 60 minutes unless you absolutely need 30 minutes. But otherwise, we're going to need a lot longer to cover your story. So hit me up on there. Also, the free link to the Trenches community. Also links to volume 1 and volume 2 of Imagine Listening. And then if you're looking for any dispatch podcast merch, that is on there as well. Also the 8-hour class, communication class that I teach, is on there too. So make sure to check that out. Once again, that is links with 2eyes.co/IAM911. And this can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn Live and X. And then any clips from the show or even IAM911 stories, you can find all of those on Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, as well as TikTok and YouTube. And then for the just the audio version of the podcast, you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life, through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But Imagine Listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.